Well, it's my fine old friend, Linda Buller. How are you this marvellous day?
I'm very good, Chrissy Webb. How are you, mate?
Good. Now, we haven't seen each other for probably 25 years or something, except for a few times.
Bit longer than that.
Yeah, could be. And now, when I first met you in the very early 80s, which Shelton Lee introduced me to you, and you were known as Trammy Linda. Now, why were you known as Trammy Linda? As if I didn't know.
Well, why don't you work it out? It's because I got on trams all day and all night and travelled around Melbourne and all the time, just on trams. No, I'm joking. I learned how to drive a tram. I was the second lady. There was a lady called Joyce, and we used to call her the Sergeant Major. Well, she was the first woman to drive trams in Melbourne. I was the second one.
Marvellous. So you were actually born in Carlton?
Carlton Women's Hospital, yeah.
Okay, but then you don't have much memory in Melbourne of your early years, do you? Because you were whisked away by a wicked stepfather, weren't you?
Well, I sort of remember. I mean, my happiest time was down here in Victoria. So Mum whisked us away and took us up to Townsville after she met the wicked stepfather.
And he was indeed a wicked stepfather, and you don't mind just touching briefly on that, do you? Because in some ways he made you what and who you are today, if I be so bold.
And what would that be, Chrissy?
Well, come on.
You mean, what? Just describe it, my love.
Well, you're a power woman, you know. There's no you can come up with a right hook better than pretty much anyone.
We like the right hook idea, but you know, if you're going to have a right hook, you've got to make sure it's a really good right hook, because then you've got to come in with the left if the right doesn't work. And I'm only right-handed, so I've got to make sure the first one's always got to put them down, you know. So I had fun in the pubs, yes, and the stepfather, well, you know, I don't know. Was I born with some kind of Irish rage? I don't know. I think I might have been, because I think a lot of kids, when they're faced with, you know, angry, horrible people in their lives, they kind of lose their spirit and they get post-traumatic stress, and, you know, these kids that have been molested, you know, they have to go out of their body and float around and sort of disassociate themselves from their spirit and just to save themselves, their hearts and their souls, you know. But I don't think that happened to me. I mean, I just called on some kind of rage inside. So he didn't manage to destroy me. He managed to sort of put me down in a lot of instances. It called me filthy names from when I was about 8 years old onwards. And then there was some sexual molestation. But, you know, once he tried a couple of times, I learned how to, you know, use my physical body to protect myself, which is amazing. I think when I look back now, the things I used to get up to. I used to sleep on a bunk and I'd somersault off that bunk onto the floor every morning. I used to be so proud of my strong body. And I remember one day he decided to come in and beat me up. Well, I knew he was going to do this, so he opened the door and I had braced myself on this wooden bunk, you know, with my two hands like this and I had my legs up like this, you know. And as he came through, I just kicked him in the stomach and he went down, and then I jumped on him and I'm like 14 years old. Oh. So I became a pretty good fighter and I worked out, you know, strategies and stuff like that.
What did you do when you jumped on him?
I punched him in the head a few times, and my mother was there going, get away, you know, stop fighting and everything, and, you know, trying to get in between us.
Probably trying to protect him, not you, wouldn't that
probably,
be?
I don't know, you know. She never interfered when he was screaming at me and calling me names, and, you know, I mean, I wanted to go to university and be a scientist and all this sort of stuff. Of course, you know, there was too much discord in the house and dysfunction to be able to even concentrate, you know. But I still concentrated as much as I could because I loved my schoolwork, you know. I wanted to know everything. So, but I must have landed a kick in the right spot because I kicked him down the stairs that day. And he came sheepishly up the stairs and I felt so sorry for him. He sat in a chair and I thought, oh, gee, the manhood that he didn't have he's lost the tiny bit of manhood he had. His 14-year-old daughter's kicked the shit out of him. And I thought, oh, you poor bugger. So I went up and I said, oh, Bill, I'm sorry, you know. And he said, you're a CUNT. And I thought, that's it. No, no more. No, I ain't gonna. No more sympathy, no more anything. Yeah, it's war, you know. And that's what it became, you know.
Well, and there was an axe involved in one stage, wasn't there?
Well, there was also, you know, those crank handles that you crank up your car with? Well, you know, it's a long story, but I ran away from home. They dragged me back and all this. And then Mum realised he was actually doing this stuff, trying to do this stuff to me. Anyway, I had a boyfriend. A couple of years later, I was walking up the road, you know, with the boyfriend, and I was pushing my bike. And the stepfather sees me and he goes, oh, I think this is a good opportunity to beat Linda up on the street, you know, in public. So he gets out of his car and he pulls me up and he goes, get home, I'm going to beat the shit out of you or whatever. He tries to hit me and he misses. So I threw the bike at my boyfriend because the boyfriend just stands there. And I was sort of looking at him thinking, well, are you going to do something? Did nothing. So I grabbed the bike pump out of my bike. And as Bill was coming at me, I whacked him really hard across the head with the bike pump, right? And so, anyway, he had blood coming from his eye down here, and they said, you just wait there, I'm getting... And so he went to the back of the boot of the car and got the crank handle out, and it's a piece of steel.
I know crank handles.
You know, yeah, well, anyway, he comes out with a crank handle ready to beat the crap out of me with a crank handle. I'm thinking, bloody hell, what I'm going to do? I'm going to have to... you know, do some ducking here or some running, one or the other. There was two bikies. Oh, not bikies, I think they call them bodgies in those days. Had leather coats and the hair was slicked back and everything, all this oil in their hair. A couple of handsome-looking blokes came out of the house over the road.
Oh.
And they saw this brute of a man with a crank handle about to beat this little girl up, you know, and this dumb boyfriend just standing there. And they said, hey, mate, put that down or we'll wrap it around your head and get out of here now. Well, he shit himself, you know. He hadn't come across real men, and I was, like, so grateful. He
What
said...
a coward.
Yeah, he goes, this is my daughter and I'll do what I like. They said, get out. We're not going to warn you again.
Oh.
It was great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. And I've had that my whole life, you know, something intervening to stop me from getting hurt or abused, you know. So I just, is there a higher power? Maybe. I don't know. Do we have little angels floating around? I never see any of them. I mean, I'm between the two things. Do I believe or do I not believe? But anyway, agnostic as I am, you never know what's happening. But to be feeling protected your whole life.
Well, I must say that you have landed on your feet every time.
Well, I sort of have, haven't I?
You have.
Kind of tin bum, they call me.
So this is all happening in Townsville, isn't it? Because your stepfather took your mum and you up to Townsville.
Well, Mum was compliant in that too. I mean, Mum, you know, I'm 5 years old. Mum's walked out on my real dad and when I was about 3. And no excuse, no nothing, just packs everything up and walks out. Poor old dad, you know, working his backside off, trying to become, you know, the good dad and provide for the family. Well, apparently wasn't good enough, so she just up and left, and he was heartbroken, so was my, you know, Irish, you know, grandmother and grandfather and so on. So she is taken off with this bloke who's married, or I don't know if they were just separated or what, but I know he had 3 kids, and there was no pensions or social security in those days, so, you know, his wife's left with all these kids to bring up, and he's off running around with my mother, and my mother's running around with him, you know, and so she's only got one little kid to look after, easy, you know, just like, anyway, off they went up to Queensland, because, you know, it's pretty rude in those days for a woman and a guy who's supposed to be socialist, you know, in that group of people, they would be judged, you know, because you just don't do that to fellow working class people. You don't run off with their husbands. Do you know what I mean?
No,
anyway, so she's gone off up to Queensland because her sister lives in Townsville and dragged me along too. I mean, I remember being in the train and the lights, the little towns, and meeting a green frog in some lady's place on the way up in Bundaberg or somewhere, and I just thought, the green frog, it was beautiful, lived in the sink, you know. No hot water in the sink in those days. He was quite happy living in the sink catching flies, you know, but I was just like enamoured with that frog. The green, just gorgeous.
I love green frogs.
I do too. Yeah, I love them too. So anyway, so all this, we ended up in Townsville. We ended up in a little box that he'd built on stilts, you know, in the hot weather and the tadpoles all lived over the road from the salt pan. I loved that, you know, the black mud, and it's different life to what it is down here. It's so hot and, you know, it's humid and...
Well, nature's a great place to escape to when you're a kid, and you would have really needed an extra place to escape to given the home environment.
Yeah, but, you know, I had some kind of... I don't know, I remember Johnny Rewald. He was a kid up the road. He had bright red hair and he had freckles and he was a real little mongrel, you know, like those comics that you used to read with Dennis and Menace and that. Johnny Rewald and Dennis and Menace would have been great mates, you know. Anyway, he came down under the house because we had one of those houses on stilts, staying at my auntie's place when we first went up there. Anyway, Mum's quickly pregnant with my sister Georgina, you know. Anyway, she had a bassinet under the house, and Johnny Rewald came down and burnt it, you know, started a fire. Oh, looks good to burn, I'll burn this. So I must have been by that time 8 years old. Well, I took great umbrance to this, and I thought, okay, Johnny Rewald, you want to come in and burn my sister's bassinet? Well, we didn't know it was a girl or a boy in those days. Couldn't tell you what it was. So anyway, Mum's baby was going to be sleeping in that bassinet. So I tramped up to his place.
What did you do?
Well, I knocked on the door and I said to the woman, your son just burnt my sister's bassinet. And you better do something, and stole my mother's jewellery, so you better do something about your son, right? Anyway, I can't remember what she said, but apparently, you know, I was kind of known as being pretty precocious for some reason, don't know why, but anyway, so then I waited to see what would happen. I don't remember if anything was returned, but I went over to the salt pan. It was a great big flat, you know, salt pan. It was full of salt and mud, black mud, and little fishies and little, you know, a lot of interesting stuff, and holes that you could get in and lie in, and bunkers, like things that not bunkers, like big gullies that you could lie in, and then you could jump on people when they come past. But not many people came into the salt pan. Anyway, here comes Johnny Rewald. I got me cousin with me, the girl cousin, and I says, here comes Johnny Rewald. Get down in the gully. She goes, no. I said, get down before I push you down. Anyway, so she gets down, and then Johnny Rewald comes past, and I got a great big lump of mud, you know, great big thing of mud, black, beautiful black mud. And then as he come past, I sorted him out and I spied him and I threw it really hard and it went right on his face. And there was this big splat of black mud went on his face, and everything must have closed up and then everything opened. The mouth opened, the eyes opened. And there was these three big holes and this noise, this great shrieking of terror out of his mouth. And I said, get home, Johnny Rewald, or I'm going to kill you. And he ran.
Oh,
so I got me revenge.
Fantastic.
Got my revenge, yes.
But you learnt to defend yourself and you kept it up, didn't you?
I did, you know. Like, I know my mother took me to the playground when I was about 5, and some girl was on a swing, and there was only one swing, and I wanted to be on the swing, so I stood near the bottom of it and I just said, get off. And yeah, she ran too. She stopped the swing and she ran, and I had the swing, you know. So I guess I learned at a very early age. And I think it's because of the dog. Mum used to leave me in this room with the dog and a cot. So I learned how to speak dog language, you know. Someone would walk past the house or something, the dog would growl. So I'd growl. And then I think I learnt dog language. So when the girl was on the swing, I said, "Get off." It was like I was growling at her, you know. So, yeah, I learnt dog language.
Well, that's marvellous. But now I want to hear about the axe.
I'd learned how to fight, I'd learned how to stand up, and this day, years later after all that, Mum sort of moved back down to Melbourne because her mother was dying, and she took care of her, and my stepfather came as well, and the kids, there was 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and anyway, they moved into Nana's house, and my mother never used to cook. As far as I remember, I had not been to any Christmas lunches for many years because I left Townsville a lot earlier and came back down to Melbourne.
Okay.
And found me dad and everything, and then Mum moves down with Bill, you see, and so they're having this Christmas lunch this day, and Mum's gone to a lot of effort making a Christmas lunch. I thought, gee, this is so nice. We're going to have a lovely Christmas lunch with turkey and gravy and veggies. And
I've got a bad feeling.
This is wonderful. Anyway, so Bill's on the other side of the house, and Mum said, go and get Bill. Well, you know, I thought, well, things are okay these days, you know, like he's too scared to stand up to me, I think. Anyway, so I go and I go, Bill, come on, like, come in and have some lunch, you know. Mum's made some really lovely lunch, you know. Oh, piss off, he goes. I'm not sitting anywhere where you're sitting, you bludgeon bee or whatever, you know. I said, come on, Bill, it's not necessary to be behaving like this today, you know, like it's Christmas Day. Just come on in and just sit down and just behave yourself, you know. I'm not going. I'll fix you, he says, and he goes outside. And I'm like, what's going on here? Comes back in with a tomahawk. I'm going to fix you for good, he goes. I go, are you? Oh, geez. I said, just wait there for a second. And I'll come back in a minute so you can fix me. Anyway, I go outside and I find the big axe. The great big axe out there. And I come back in and I thump the ground like this and I go, who's going to get who first, right? I said, well, mine's bigger than yours. I said, you effing bastard, you know. Anyway, he goes, shit. And he realises that axe ain't going to do anything because mine's double the length and double the size and I'm more wild. Well, I pretended I was wild. I wasn't wild at all. It's all pretense, you know. So I'm going, I'm going to get you. I've had it. I'm up to here with your shit. I'm going to do you over now. Well, he turned and ran. I knew he was a coward from the first day I met him, you know. And he starts running. Well, he's got socks on and it's a highly polished hallway and very dark. So he starts sliding up the hallway with his socks, running as fast as he can, panting, screaming. Oh! So I'm going, I'm going to get you, and I'm thumping behind him, banging my feet. Well, the kids hear it, Mum hears it, everybody's chasing me down the hallway going, no, Linda, no, Linda. All they can see is me with the axe, right? And him sliding in front of me. Anyway, he manages to breathlessly open the bedroom door, and race into the bedroom. Well, my nana's and grandpa's old room. Well, I get to the bedroom door, and I go, I'm going to get you, and I put my foot and I kick the door, and the door flies open. And by that time, he's turned around and he's got a knife, and he's like a bayonet, and which was my bayonet. I found it in an old house. He's got it raised up and he wants to kill me. Well, Mum's got me by this arm and the kids are pulling me from behind and I went, oh, God, you're pathetic. And I just walked away, right? And put the axe down and walked away. And Mum starts going, oh, my God, laughing her guts out.
Oh, she saw the funny side.
Oh, she thought it was hilarious. Well, after I put the axe down, of course, and everybody realised that I was putting a bit of an Irish act on there. Oh. And... and she went out the back. He ran out the front door and got in his car, go to the pub, get pissed or whatever, go and see his mates, his pedophile mates. And
yes, right. Yeah. Okay, so, and he's a drunk to boot, a coward, a drunk and a bully.
He didn't drink that much, but, you know, he wasn't an alcoholic or anything. He was just a social man's man,
right,
you know, out in the street, top bloke, mate.
Yeah. Oh, top bloke.
Top bloke out there on the road, at the street, and the pub.
Well, that would have been the last time that he made any attempt to stand over you, I suppose. Well, he was out of your life basically by then, anyway.
I introduced Mum to a German fella because I said, Mum, you're not real happy with Bill, are you? Oh, I had this. I'm a Scorpio, so the Scorpios, we sit on our revenge. We just wait and wait. We wait for years if necessary. Anyway, I thought, I think my mum needs a new boyfriend. So I introduced her to this little bloke who loved jazz, and Mum loved jazz, and suddenly they fall in love, and then Bill comes to me about a month later and he goes, Linda, can you help me? I said, help you what? And he goes, well, Mum's going through a phase, she's not talking to me, and I think she's got someone else, and I went, oh, Bill, isn't that awful? I said, oh, you poor old fella, fuck off. Sorry about that.
Oh, how marvellous.
Oh, marvellous, yeah. So the revenge came in many ways. And great memories. Don't anyone tell you girls that revenge is not sweet, because it really is very, very sweet.
Oh, marvellous.
Oh, it's lovely.
Oh, good.
I started that revenge when he was trying to, bully me around the house. We had that open ceiling because he never finished anything he started. So I would crawl over the ceiling when I woke up in the morning and I knew he was in bed, lying there scratching his balls on Sunday morning, reading a newspaper and scratching his balls, and I'd sit up on there and I'd spit on him.
Oh!
I used to just and just let the spit dribble out and then drop on his paper, and he'd be going, what's that? So the revenge began very early in the piece, yeah.
Very nice.
And your viewers should know that there's a shaving strap that he used to beat me with in the wall, because I dropped it into the wall. He said he was going to beat me with it that night. I got the strap. The wall was half made, half plastered. The plaster was going to go on the next day. Well, I dropped the strap inside the wall at 18 Leeds Street, Townsville, Gulliver, and it's still in that wall.
Fantastic.
Yes.
How good. And he went
How long? That
searching
was
for the
50
strap
years
and
ago.
couldn't find it, probably.
He went searching for it and he said, where's a bloody strap? And I said, it's inside the wall.
Oh.
You're going to have to unnail the whole thing, aren't you? Oh, no, that was my father's strap. Too bad. You shouldn't have used it to beat your little girls up with.
Oh, that's marvellous. And you're not even bitter and twisted these days like some people could be.
You don't reckon?
Oh,
I might be a bit twisted and a bit bitter too.
well, but anyway, it all stood you in good stead, and you've got a fine army of friends who just love and adore you. So you've certainly done a lot right.